Hi, I'm Liv and welcome back to the Book Nook. So for day 17 of Vlogmas, what I thought I would do is take a little look at the Republic of Consciousness Prize for Small Presses. Now, I had been looking at this long list, because the long list was announced last week or so. I'd been looking at this long list and thinking about it because, as Jennifer Arnold rightly pointed out in one of her comments on one of my videos, I had either read or hauled a few of the titles on this long list. So I hadn't been sort of letting myself get fully dragged into this because I know that it's a prize that I would fall in love with. So let's have a little look at the long list, shall we? Now what I've done is I've printed out the sort of gubbins about it from the TLS, because the TLS is one of the sponsors of the Republic of Consciousness Prize. So the Republic of Consciousness Prize for Small Presses was founded by Neil Griffiths in 2016. It rewards literary fiction published by presses in the UK and Ireland that employ fewer than 5 full-time employees. So you guys know that I love me an indie press, and I probably talk about it more than I kind of actualise it, if that makes sense. I feel like I talk about it a lot more than I actually read books by indie presses, but I love the kind of passion and the risks that they take, and that is kind of what this prize sort of rewards. So let's just go through the long list, and I will talk about any that I have either read or got or seen about, and yeah, let's take it from there. I'm reading these bits from the TLS because there are some of these that I know nothing about. That's why I'm doing that. So the first one on the list here is Playing Possum by Kevin Davey by Arg Press, so you guys know that I read this one. Fusing the local history of Whitstable with reflections on T.S. Eliot and modernism within a sort of detective narrative, Playing Possum is wild. Funny, dark, once modern and nostalgic, the book is rather like T.S. Eliot himself. This potential cult classic has already been shortlisted for the Goldsmiths Prize. So yeah, I really did like this little book. It was so weird and wacky. I did say that there was probably a lot of references in there I didn't quite get and quite understand. That's just because I don't sort of necessarily know so many of the references, and I think that's always going to happen with a book that's as inventive as that and as kind of intelligently done as that. Then we've got Sorry to Disrupt the Peace by Patty Yumi Cottrell, published by And Other Stories. You guys know how much I love And Other Stories. Semi-autobiographical, reflecting on a defining episode in the author's life. Bleakly comic work follows the narrator Helen as she tries to work out why her younger brother committed suicide. Deep, searing and honest. It's all the better for making no concessions to the reader. So I own this one, and I have been meaning to get around to it. It's one of those that I keep going to and picking up and going, oh, I'll read that one next, and then getting distracted. Sorry, I can't get comfortable today. I'm fidgety. Then The Gallows Pole by Ben Myers, which is published by Blue Moose Books. 18th century Yorkshire is powerfully evoked in this novel about violence, myth and money. The men at the heart of this book are outlaws, violating the crown's currency and resisting the encroaching power of the state and the capital. Myers' prose is loaded with beautiful old words that point to a deep understanding of how language, place and identity combine, a rich mythic brew. Sorry, this must be really annoying that I keep moving, but I just cannot get comfy today. So I struggled with Ben Myers Turning Blue, partly mainly because of the subject matter, and it was one that I DNF, and sort of I'm really intrigued by this novel and the way that it sets up and the language that it uses, so I'm really excited by that one. And Blue Moose Books, I've read the, oh, what was it called? It's a title that I always get wrong. Something to do with Donna Cricklethwaite, or Imaginary Donald Cricklethwaite, something like that. And it was like, okay. I didn't love it, and that was up for the Not the Booker Prize last year, not the one just gone, the one before that. Creosote, Donna Creosote, not Cricklethwaite. Why did I think it was Cricklethwaite? So yeah, I'm intrigued to give that one a go. Then we've got An Overcoat by Jack Robinson, published by CB Editions. Now this is one I haven't heard of before. Henry Bale Stedenhall is imagined in modern life by Charles Boyle, writing under his own nom de plume, Jack Robinson. Written with playfulness and style, high style even, this novella is about, among many other things, an early 19th century writer flummoxed by the quotidian details of the 21st century, living in a state of ennui that is timeless. So that sounds intriguing. I do love me CB Editions. I loved Will Eves, The Absent Therapist, and I have got his other one, and there's something about CB Editions that I love their aesthetic and the way that they do things, so I'm probably going to check that one out. Then another couple that I haven't heard of, so I was really intrigued by these. Die My Love by Ariana Harwich, translated by Sarah Moses and Carolina Orloff, published by Charco Press. This is one of 2 launch publications for Charco Press, the new Edinburgh-based house that promises to publish the best of contemporary Latin American literature. That's an interesting mix, I like that. Die My Love is an intense first-person account of motherhood and wildness, following dark thoughts to their extremes, playing with borders and boundaries in a fascinating manner. But even just from that, it sounds like if you liked Samantha Schweblin's Fever Dream, that this may be one that ticks a few boxes, so I'm definitely going to check that one out. Then Gaudy Bauble, which I think is possibly my favourite title so far. Gaudy Bauble by Isabel Widener, published by Dostoevsky Wannabe. Gaudy Bauble is a slim, complex novel from uncompromising Dostoevsky Wannabe. Although at first glance it seems dauntingly experimental, it's actually a propulsive, immensely readable book, might be sort of the point. A portrait of what it looks like when the avant-garde is centred, not marginalised, and it's a glorious rollick. Yes, please! Then we've got Compass by Matthias Anard, translated by Charlotte Mandel, published by Fitzcarraldo Editions. I love Fitzcarraldo Editions, and this one did pique my interest when it was longlisted, and was it shortlisted for the Man Booker International? I think it was. It piqued my interest then, and it's been on a few sort of best of the year lists, from things like the Times Literary Supplement, so I think I am going to probably check this one out. Arabist Academic, A Sleepless Night, Memories of the Journeys in the Middle East, Run-on Sentences, 1001 Nights, How the West Defined the East to Itself. Once again, Matthias Hannard has been brilliantly served by Charlotte Mandel's translation, a work of art in itself. So another one that plays with translation, which I'm really fascinated by. So yeah, I was intrigued by it when it was shortlisted for the Man Booker International, but I was a bit daunted by it. But I think I may potentially give it a go. Blue Self-Portrait by Noémie Lefebvre, translated by Sophie Lewis, published by Les Fugitives. Oh my god, that was the most English pronunciation of anything French ever, wasn't it? Les Fugitives. A woman sits on a plane leaving Berlin with her sister. She reads the letters between Theodor Adorno and Thomas Mann while ruminating on a chance encounter with a pianist who wants to write a piece of music about Schoenberg's painting Blue Self-Portrait. In many ways that's all it is, and in other ways that's the least of it. Sometimes a writer and translator give voice so perfectly a character emerges into real life. This is one of the most fluidly charming, intellectual, committed, funny pieces of fiction in years. These all sound bloody brilliant. I'm going to end up reading the whole shortlist, aren't I? The long list even. Then we've got We That Are Young by Preti Taneja, published by Gallibagger Press. I love Gallibagger Press. They brought us Eamon McBride's Girl as a Half-Formed Thing before anybody else did. They took the risk on it, and I'm so pleased they did. A brave, committed retelling of King Lear in modern India. Taneja struggled to find a publisher, with Gallibagger once again coming to the rescue. This tumultuous epic is culturally timely, wonderfully written, intellectually playful, dark, and shocking. Then we've got Atrib and Other Stories by Ellie Williams, published by Influx Press. I have a copy of this, been meaning to get around to it for ages, and this is one that both Alice and Bethany over at What Page You On podcast have been raving about, and it made their sort of books of the year list. I will link down below to the podcast, their most recent episode of the podcast, where they talk about their books of 2017. It's absolutely fantastic, and you can hear them raving about that one on there. Williams is a fantastic noticer, and she writes about how words and letters connect to people and objects. So many of these 17 stories are small wondrous things, shots of linguistic pleasure that take moments of everyday life and fashion something marvellous from them. I like that there's a collection of short stories on here. Oh, and here's another one, Darker with the Lights On by David Hayden at Little Iron Press, another one that I own and was really drawn into partly by the style of publishing that Little Iron Press do. These gorgeous hardbacks, yeah, they just look very pretty. Collection compromises a miscellany of vignettes that are both unsettling and ludic. I think that's meant to be lucid and it's a typo and I've just read it trustingly. Eaten apples are regurgitated and made whole, squirrels lecture on storytelling, decapitated heads merrily sing as they bounce across the floor. David Hayden's debut collection is a joy, plus Little Iron Press is producing some of the most beautifully made books in the UK to do today. I couldn't agree more, even if I can't say today. Then In the Absence of Absalom by Simon Okotie, published by Salt Publishing. I have got, have I got this one or have I got the first one? Or is this... I think I've got the first one of this, so there were two loosely linked books. If anyone can be said to be ploughing a very narrow, very deep furrow, it is Simon Okotie. This is his second novel dealing with the missing Harold Absalom. Yeah, I've got the first one. The Mayor's Transport Advisor. Superficially a detective story, it's really a phenomenological analysis of the detail of life when one is scrupulously alive to its endless variants. Ooh. The first one I think is called Whatever Happened to Harold Absalom. I can't see it from here to check that. But that one I'm really, really excited by. It's also published by Salt Press. And I'm going to give that one a go at some point. I think if I do, as reading through this long list I'm feeling more and more likely to do, if I do end up reading all of the books on this long list, then I may read that one first just to give myself a bit of context, but we'll see. Then the last one on the long list here is The Iron Age by Arja Kajamo, published by Tramp Press. I remember when this one came into our bookshops a little while ago, so many of us were drawn in by the cover and the style of the publishing and sounded fantastic. It's a mysterious, semi-magical realist novella set in mid-20th century dirt-poor Finland. It's a great achievement in that just over 100 pages, it has the feel of a Scandinavian saga, epic and out of time. The portrait of the father is noteworthy, brutal and capricious, yet somehow representing the desperation of a man who can't provide for his family. So that is the long list for the Republic of Consciousness Prize. Now, as I was reading through that long list, when it was first announced and I had a look at them, I was thinking, oh, it's probably a few too many, maybe I won't quite be bothered about them, and I don't think I really properly engaged with all of the synopses of them. having read them for this video, I am feeling like 90% sure that I'm going to end up reading the long list, or most definitely the short list, but some of those just sound so cracking that I'm really tempted. So the shortlist is going to be announced on February the 15th, 2018, so I feel like that's possibly enough time for me to read the long list, who knows? Depends on other reading things that I might be doing next year. So I've managed to find what the shortlist and the long list were for the inaugural Republic of Consciousness Prize, and I think I know the winner, but I can't find anything definitive. I think because it is a smaller prize, there's not as much about it. So I won't go through the long list for last year's, but the inaugural shortlist: Born on a Tuesday by L. Nathan John by Casa the Republic, Anna Schofield's Martin John by And Other Stories. I read that one, that was really weird and uncomfortable. Paul Stanbridge's Forbidden Line by Galley Beggar Press, Mike McCormack's Solar Bones, published by Trout Press, you guys know I loved that one, Diane Williams' Fine, published by CB Editions, and then KJ Orr's Lightbox collection of short stories, published by Daunt Books, which is over there on my shelf. Then John Keane's Counter Narratives, which I think is the one that won, and that was published by Fitzcarraldo Editions, and then Treats by Lara Williams, published by Freight Books, Freight Books of no money at the moment, and that book I know is one that Alice Slater and Bethany Rutter again have recommended in a thread of books you might like if you liked Ellie Williams's @Trib over on their Twitter, and I've been thinking of picking up, so it's quite interesting to see that one. What I really like about this prize, and I'm not going to pretend that I knew about it from its inception or anything like that, I think it kind of passed me by last year, but this year, because I have read a couple, one from the long list and I own a few others, I'm really intrigued by it. The thing I love about this prize is its championing of indie presses, and I think it's something that's very much called for. I do think it's quite interesting at the moment that one of the books that was shortlisted last year is from an indie publisher that has now gone into liquidation. I think there's an interesting sort of comment there that somebody far more intelligent than I could probably make about indie publishers and the need to support them with things like this prize, with more exposure, with hand selling as booksellers, hand selling and championing smaller press books and things like that. The risk taking that these guys do is often, it's quite ironic that those in the position of least security are able to take the risks more so than the bigger publishers who've got more security and more wherewithal to take those risks. So I think it is, you know, again, somebody far more intelligent than me could have a proper discussion about all of that I've just splurged. But I do think that's quite interesting. As I say, I've only just sort of noticed that one of the shortlisted books last year, say Freight Books, have now gone into liquidation, and there's all sorts of drama going on with one of the guys involved in that and starting up a new press before the assets of that have sort of finished. So the indie publishing sort of world just fascinates me, because the dedication that these guys put in, the kind of hand-picked titles, the fact that these titles are often nurtured like babies from, not to say that bigger publishers don't do this, of course they do, and there are teams involved, but the fact that, you know, all of these publishers on this long list, 5 people or fewer, read a book, read a submission, love a book, nurture this thing into this book, this thing that then goes out into the world and people fall in love with. And I just think there's something magical about indie publishers, the risks they take, the care they take. So I would urge you guys to check out the long list for the Republic of Consciousness Prize. As I say, Playing Possum that I've read, weird and wonderful. Others on here sound so up my street. I'm glad that there are a few on there that I've already got, and I will be checking out a few others. I would say this is probably a prize for those who like the Goldsmiths Prize, or those who like that sort of fiction, because I think, as we can tell, reading those synopses from the Times Literary Supplement, a lot of these are inventive, formally wacky, things like that. So have a little check out of the long list, and have a look, see if there's any that you'd want to read. I do love that the 2 criteria that they sort of go with for choosing the winner is hardcore literary fiction and gorgeous prose. So if those 2 things tick your boxes, then that's it. If ever you were worried about me becoming too polished and actually thinking sentences through, that right there proves that will probably never happen. So that's my Vlogmas video for today, day 17. A little bit of a chat about a small prize that's in its infancy that I think really deserves a closer look by a lot of people, and we should be supporting indie publishers. If we want the brave books that they publish, we've got to buy them, we've got to talk about them, we've got to publicise them. We've got to get involved with the great work that indie presses do. So yeah, again, I will link down below to a few resources about the Republic of Consciousness Prize. Have a little chat with me in the comments below about the long-listed books. Are there any that you are drawn to despite my quite rapid fire reading of what's on the TLS website? Are there any that you had been previously sort of checking out and been intrigued by and are now sold on? Yeah, have a little chat with me in the comments below about the Republic of Consciousness Prize. I will be back tomorrow with my Vlogmas Q&A answering video thingy. So if you have any questions, get them in now. I've not got like a massive amount of questions, but that's okay, because if I had any more, I'd struggle with thinking of answers for them than I've already done. But if you do have any more questions that you want to get in for the Vlogmas Q&A, that will be going up tomorrow, so there's still time to pop in some questions in the comments below if you have anything at all that you would like to ask of me. So, thanks very much for watching, and you will see me tomorrow. Bye-bye!